Well, I'd like to welcome everybody to the filling station. Thanks for coming out to the community forum. My name is Mary Ann Ray. I'm the executive director here. Eric from National Weather Service asked me how long I had been here. I said, well, today or, just overall. He said, how long have you been part of this project? So 10 years. And actually, today is the day that we opened for disaster relief response in 2018. So 6 years ago today, we opened in response to Mayor Jay Bender. Mayor Jay Bender sends his regards. He's at a meeting in Wilmington today. But he called and asked us. But that was also in response to our county manager at the time and also Jones County Emergency Services. So we have had the opportunity to work closely with Jones County Emergency Services and to help assist in filling those gaps. That's what our mission is. We reflect about 20 churches in Jones County and also surrounding counties. And so, you can have a disaster, but there's daily disasters that we're dealing with clients. And so we're helping to fill those needs with incredible partners that will be here introducing themselves. But I will say I'm just thrilled that we got the opportunity to host this tonight, this forum. I know that Eric's got lots of good information. I would like to also recognize the New Bern Amateur Radio Club. They are an in-house partner. They have been a lease partner from the very beginning. So they run the radio tower. We house a repeater here. Jeremy LeRae is the trustee of that repeater and oversees the disaster plan in working with Jones County Emergency Management. I would like to welcome John Taylor. He has been a board member from the very beginning. And much of what you see here in this building did not look like this, but it looks like it now because he has been in charge of overseeing facilities. So thank you for being here, John. And Ed Valentine, he is part of the radio club as well. And has been a part of this project along with me for 10 years. Can you believe it? Yeah. Okay, well, thank y'all so much for being here tonight. And Eric, hand it over to you.
All right. Thank you so much for having us. Really appreciate the community having us at a facility like this. This is amazing. We work at the National Weather Service down in Newport. We cover 15 counties in eastern North Carolina. So even though we're in Newport, we cover as far inland as Williamson, Greenville, Snow Hill, Beulahville, and that of course includes Jones County all the way back to the coast and the Outer Banks. So appreciate you having us. We have the information, we have the energy, and we want to give it to you, but without the filling station, Jones County Emergency Services, without folks working with us, it's hard to get it out to the community. So we really appreciate you all having us out. So the reason we're talking tonight about hurricanes, it just didn't dawn on me until we were talking about this before. 6 years ago, Florence, obviously we know what happens right where we're standing, especially that way toward the river. We've done hurricane talks for years in our office. Traditionally, we did them in May, and that was it. Now we're doing them in May, June, July, August, September, and October, knowing full well one of them may be canceled by a storm. But we know full well that a lot of us will not prepare until it's on the horizon. So that's why we're doing these talks in the community. This is our 20th talk this year. We've been everywhere from Buxton to Banyo, Nags Head, Mason, here in Pollocksville, of course. We're going to be in Belhaven next week, Greenville, and everywhere in between. So we appreciate everybody coming on out. I say this at all of them. Do one thing now to be prepared for the storm. You know, a lot of us have not done what we need to do, and we've gotten lucky. We've had Debbie, and then we had what happened earlier this week with the potential tropical cyclone. We've gotten lucky so far. We know we need to get water. We know we need to get canned goods. Kind of a kick in the butt that we really need to complete these plans because we're getting toward pretty active storms historically in our area. We really want you to focus on the impacts. We saw this with Debbie, it was just a tropical storm. We saw this earlier this week. It didn't even have a name. It didn't have a category rating, and we were impacted. So when the local news or the National Weather Service talks about 5 to 10 inches of rain or flash flooding or river flooding, that's what you focus on, not what is the name, what's the category. That's all important, but it's not the whole thing you should be paying attention to. Water is what kills. Category rating is based on wind, not water. Water is what kills. And never ever focus on just that category. I'm not saying not to pay attention to it, but Florence was a 1. Were we pretty devastated in our community with just a 1? Yes, so we don't need any more evidence than what happened with Florence. This is our forecast for the year. It came out in May, and then there was an update in August. It has not changed. 90% chance it's going to be an above normal year. We pay attention to this, but each year I really say the same thing. You should prepare no matter what. This could be an accurate forecast, but until I say Jones County, you're going to have 2 storms. One's going to be a tropical storm, one's going to be a hurricane, and when they're going to hit, this doesn't do you any good. These could all be out in the ocean, and it could be a really active year, and it doesn't matter because, you know, it's not hitting our area. Or it's really not an active year, but we get that one storm to make a difference in our lives. So yes, it's going to be active, but you should be paying attention no matter what. Just a show of hands, how many prior to today are familiar with our website? The National Weather Service, Hurricane Center, local office. That's really good. So a lot of you are. For those in our community that are not, share this with them. It was mentioned at the top, all the churches this building works with in this facility. Spread it through churches, your social networks, however you can get that information out. This is important to follow official sources. We live right down the road from you. You know, private sector helps out a lot. They're out of state, a lot of them. I'm down the road in Newport. We have people that have worked in our office since the mid-90s. I was discussing it with the members here earlier that we have roots in Eastern North Carolina to 1874 on the Outer Banks. Been here a long time, not going anywhere. So trust local sources, weather.gov, and all of you raise your hand, but for those in the community, you got to tell them the joke. And you got to deliver with that punchline. You got to say, if it's the weather you love, they're looking at you, it's weather.gov. That's all you need to know. So you got to lay in that punchline. And but honestly, it's a really good resource. You have paid for this, $4 per person per year to fund the weather service. When you watch our friends at the local TV station, radar, satellite, any of that's all our information. We've all paid for that. Might be packaged a different way, but you have paid for that with your taxpayers' money. So please utilize it as a resource. Another one you are probably familiar with is the National Hurricane Center. You can get that information from us. You can get it from the local station, the Weather Channel. It's out there in many different forms. But if you want to get it directly from the source, it's hurricanes.gov with an S. One thing that's really useful, how many look at this tropical weather outlook? See some head nods. And it may not look exactly like this. Almost every local meteorologist will show this on their newscast. They'll call it a tropical weather outlook. It's from the Hurricane Center. And it just shows you low, medium, or high chance of something forming in the next 7 days or actual storms. Who's heard about the big hurricane in the end of next week and next weekend? Has anybody heard about that yet? So people are already asking me. I cannot believe it. I got a text today. I'm kind of laughing. It is serious, but our weather models are publicly available. So anybody can look at it and anybody can post about it. So people are already posting about a huge hurricane off our coast a week from Monday. How good are we a week from Monday? I don't mean this Monday. I mean a week from this Monday. So it's way, way out there. It's this area here. It is looking likely we'll have something into the Gulf of Mexico. What happens after that, who knows? Sometimes the models are taking it up over us. Some of them are keeping it way west of us. It's too early. I don't have a problem with people knowing early, but what are you going to do about it? You're not going to evacuate this at this point. If you were to kind of get supplies and get ready for a storm, I would kind of be happy about it, but most people aren't going to do anything about it. So it's kind of a wasted energy because we're just way too far out. We'll probably have something to watch, whether it impacts us, who knows. But right now it's a low chance of development, but it's looking more favorable. And this is Borden. It's going to stay out to sea, so we don't have to worry about on that. Another one you're probably familiar with is the hurricane cone graphic. Very, very familiar with it, but I want you to understand what it's for and what it's not. It is only meant to show you where the center of the storm is going to go. Doesn't show you how much rain, storm surge, doesn't really tell you how long it'll linger over you. You can kind of see it with the timing, but it's only designed to show you where the center is going to go. And a hurricane is not a dot on a map. Just because the center of Florence hit Wrightsville Beach doesn't mean only Wrightsville Beach saw the storm. It's hundreds of miles across. And this is not an in or out thing. It's not a, I'm really worried because I'm in it. Phew, I'm just on the edge. I don't have to worry about it anymore. Nope. If you're anywhere near it, you should pay attention. For example, New Bern, we mentioned New Bern a couple minutes ago. Prior to Florence, like a day out, it was no longer in the forecast cone. And that's still an accurate forecast because last time I checked, the center hit down in Wrightsville Beach, but they were certainly impacted by the storm. So if you're anywhere near this, like in this example, we're not expecting the center, this is Ian, to go up over us, but we were still impacted. If it's from Florida up through Delaware, you should pay attention to this. The other thing is there's some caveats with it. If the storm goes to the left or right side of the cone, it makes a huge difference in what happens to us. If we have a storm like Dorian that tracks kind of up the coast and we're on the left side of the storm, not really a big deal for us, like where we stand. But if a storm hits Jacksonville, Wilmington, even down Myrtle Beach, if we're on that right side, it's a big deal for us. So just kind of keep that in mind. There's a lot of nuances with the storm itself. Some other graphics you may or may not be familiar with. You don't need to be a meteorologist to understand most of these. Arrival time of wind, that just means if you're going to stay or you're going to board up and just stay put or evacuate, this is when you need to do it by. So this example, by Thursday evening, that's the most likely time the tropical storm force winds we're going to get to southern Georgia. So if you're thinking about what to do, whether it's to leave or stay or whatever you want to do, those graphics help you with timing. And you don't have to go looking for them. Hurricanes.gov, our website, Jones County, even the local news sometimes will show it. It's shared a lot, so it's out there. And I do want to touch on potential storm surge. Last time I checked, you don't live at the ocean, but here in Pollocksville, you are impacted by storm surge. We're going to talk about that tonight. So the storm surge graphic is on there as well. Hurricanes.gov, a lot of really good information. It's a little information overload. All you need to remember is follow official sources, our website, the county, or our social media channels. The thing I like about social media is it really simplifies what do you need to focus on. So I did that tweet the morning of Florence, Thursday morning, because we were getting people calling saying, should I come back to the area? And you might be hard to read, so I'll say category of the storm is only related to wind. It does not tell you about all impacts with a hurricane like Florence. Our impacts have not changed with storm surge and catastrophic flooding. Do not let your guard down. And that's a link to our briefing. I get paid the same tonight as I do during Florence. It does not benefit me to have a storm or to hype anything up. When we use strong words, it's because I see your faces, I know the communities I've visited, and we care about you. That's the bottom line. So when the Weather Service is using strong language, it means business. And when we convey those impacts, please pay attention to them. An easy way, NWS Morehead City, whether you're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, however you want to see it, it's on there. And the neat thing about YouTube is we'll put on a 10-minute video. It won't be a production like you see on the Weather Channel, but it'll be exactly what I'm talking to Sissy about at the county level. Exactly what I'm telling them, you'll get to hear. So your job is to trust official sources and cut through the noise. I know we're already talking about a storm next weekend, not this weekend. Just pay attention to local stuff. You'll have plenty of time. You'll know about it. You don't need to waste energy and time on things that have not. So that's a little bit about us. The big thing to remember, weather.gov, click on Eastern North Carolina. All of you seem to be experts with that. Now we're going to shift gears and talk about hurricane preparedness. FEMA has a good website. North Carolina Emergency Management has a good website. Speaking of our friends at North Carolina Emergency Management, these hurricane guides are phenomenal. I'm going to go over storm surge and rainfall flooding and rip currents and tornadoes and wind. It's a lot of information. No problem. It's all in here. Insurance checkup. What to have in your kit. No problem. It's all in here. Right behind Sissy, there's a rack. take this. This is probably the one thing I would definitely take for sure. We have other handouts, including brochures on flood safety, rip currents. These are your brochures. You paid for them. If you think they benefit your church, your community, your kids' school, take some, see me. My cards are up here and also in the back, and we can give you boxes of them to hand out. They do little to no good if they're sitting in our warehouse in Newport. So that's why we bring them to the community. For preparedness, we did create another website locally. Since you're familiar with our page, if you just add Hurricane Prep, you can get that information. Graphics for in Spanish, also videos for the deaf and hard of hearing. Lots of really good resources. What to have in your kit, having cash on hand, filling up your gas tank, insurance checks, the whole 9 yards, know your zone, evacuation zones, it's all there. But the most important is this last part. It was warm today, pretty nice day. Finally got rid of the rain. You are not stressed. Middle of the week, kids are back to school, we're after Labor Day, we haven't done Christmas shopping yet, it's not Thanksgiving. We're in a pretty stress-free environment. Maybe kids are playing fall baseball, but things are going pretty well. Storms are stressful. If you plan tonight, tomorrow, this weekend, before anything's on the horizon, you're going to make good decisions because you have time to think about it, plan, and take action. If you wait until a storm gets here, you're going to be stressed. You may make a good decision, you may not. Think about life. Times that you've been under stress, sometimes you haven't made the best decision. So planning is key. It's not to scare you, it's just reality. If you plan before it happens, you're going to come out much, much better. And it's really a 3-step process. It's not all about the hurricane kit or should you leave or not. The first step is what is your vulnerability? Who is in your house? Who are you responsible for? If you're a young single person, no kids, pets, animals, or elderly parents, you can pick up and go and you can do whatever you want. But we have life in the room, right? We have elderly parents, young kids, pets. We may not be able to leave. It may be hard for us to leave. We have a lot of issues in our home. So think about those aspects in addition to the weather. Yes, if you live by the river and you were flooded before, you're in a vulnerable area, that's part of the puzzle as well. So think about weather, think about who's in your home. Do they have medical issues? For me to lose power, it's inconvenient. I don't have air conditioning or internet. Ho-hum. I'm not on oxygen or CPAP. I'm not on something that is keeping me alive. So think about that. If your vulnerability is high, you may want to think about getting out sooner than a young single person that's healthy. Now that you've thought about your vulnerability, you got to have your kit. The key with that is everything you need for at least 3 days. That's the ground floor, bare minimum, at least do that. Food, water, and medicine, you kind of know that, but you may not realize, and non-perishable, stuff that you don't need electricity to cook with. But you may not think about those prescriptions that you just always go out to the pharmacy and fill up last second. Make sure those are filled up. Contact lenses, kitty litter, baby formula, diapers. Everything you need for your home, you need to have on hand. If you can, stretch it out to a week. We have seen it takes a while to get back to normal. Your house may be okay, you may be perfectly fine, but the store down the road that lost power needs to restock. They may not be able to restock if the roads are washed out and the power's still out. So have things on hand to be totally on your own for at least a week. That would be best. We can't all do that this weekend. I fully understand that. So that's why we talk about planning. If you spread it out, that will spread out the financial impact. You don't need to get all of this at once. If you get your most important things, water this weekend, then canned goods, get your most important stuff, and then spread out the other things, that will lessen the financial impact. So if somebody comes to you and says, yeah, I just can't do it, tell them to break it into small parts, spread it out to make it happen. That's extremely important. And the last step is have a plan to evacuate. Please, whatever you do, at least have a plan to evacuate. Even if you've never left, you don't think you ever would leave, at least just kind of have that idea in your mind. Where would you go? Because again, if you plan now, then you can react quickly. Oh, I'm going here. We have a lot of relatives and friends that come to visit us. Go visit them. It's their turn to host you for vacation. Think of it like a vacation. Try to leave a hotel, a family member that's way more comfortable than a shelter. Through my emergency management partners and hearing them speak, a shelter is a safe place for you to be. It's not the Hilton, the Holiday Inn, Comfort Inn. It's a safe place to be. You're going to be with a lot of people on a cot in a confined space. You're going to be more comfortable somewhere else. Hotel, family friend. And don't just think about Raleigh. Raleigh would be a great place to evacuate to if it's Hurricane Dorian, but not if it's Fran or Floyd or Florence. Sometimes the impacts are worse inland than they are at the coast. And you know this, there's a lot of experience in the room, but try to think of a couple options, maybe a northern and southern route. Just head away from it. If it's coming in from South Carolina, go up to Richmond. The mountains are a great place to visit. Sometimes they get it just as bad as us. So just think about other options than just Raleigh or a shelter. Any questions on that part? So having the kid is important, trying to get it to 7 days. Think about your vulnerability and think about a plan on where you would go. And when we think about where to go, think about your neighbors, especially if they're elderly. Some people don't have the means to go somewhere else. And those are the folks we need to remember because they can't just pick up and go as easily as a lot of us can. The reason why I'm preaching this so much, we are the most vulnerable stretch of coastline in the entire country. The most vulnerable stretch in the entire country. So my daughter's 16 and she's like, you know, how teenagers question, right? She said, really, is it Southern Florida? And I said, it's close. Southern Florida, on average, every 6 to 7 years, we're more 5 to 7. Part of it's because the Outer Banks stick out. Part of it is because the Gulf Stream is nearby. There's a lot of factors, but we get a lot of storms in our area. So now's the time to prepare. Got plenty of water at the store, lots of gas, everything's good. Things will run out as we get closer to an actual storm. If you don't believe me, just think about past storms in some of our history. I don't know why I left Matthew on there, just noticed. Storm in the 30s, 1913. A lot of folks remember Hazel in 54, Donna, Gloria. I don't have Ione on there, but that has similar impacts to our area in 1955, as did Florence. So we've had a lot of storms in our history. For us, the flood of record here where we stand is Florence. We always thought, you know, Floyd was bad, but Florence topped that. So we have had a lot of storms. If you're new to the area or just moved, we get a lot of storms. And it is kind of the way it is. We live in a gorgeous area, small town. It's awesome. The beach is just right down the road. So it's our responsibility to be ready. And when it doesn't happen, we go on with our life and we're ready for next year and we restock our kit and go about business. So yeah, we have a lot of storms, but we live in a pretty awesome area and we just have to be ready each and every year for when it happens. The time to prepare is really now. It's almost over. This is a graph. It shows the frequency of storms. It starts in May. We have had some storms in the springtime, July, early August. Irene was late August, but really the middle of September to October, this stretch here, from where we are now into October is the biggest stretch of storms. Your Florences, your Floyds, your Matthews, Sandy into the month of October. Those are all the big ones. It coincides with the peak heating of the ocean water. That's when the water is the warmest. It's a slight delay from the peak heating of the sun, which is in July. So we're not out of the woods. I know it's after Labor Day. The kids are back. We've had a couple mornings that really actually felt like fall. Not out of the woods yet, really until probably after Halloween in terms of letting our guard down. Our biggest challenge is probably messaging, people believing it could actually happen. I heard time and time again, people were surprised how high the water could get here, and it actually could be that bad. We've already been through Floyd. Could it really be that bad? Yes, and then some. So they're hiring people more like me to communicate that threat. Our accuracy is pretty good, but making people believe what the threat could be. And a lot of the focus is on the category. I'm not gonna leave unless it's a 2. I'm not even worried about it unless it's a 3. Category is important, but it's only strength of wind. Doesn't tell you how much rain you're gonna get. We've had a lot of rain recently, right? We get a storm next week, we're a lot more vulnerable because we're already wet. What side of the storm do you get hit on? Is it slow moving? Is it large? All those are factors beyond category. That's the old town hall down by the river. If you needed a reminder, just a show of hands, how many of you have lived here more than 5 years? So all of you know this. So I ask that usually in the beginning because some of our talks, people have never been through a hurricane season. I don't mean 2 or 3. I don't mean they haven't been through Florence. They've never been through a hurricane season. So we have a lot of new people in our area. It's a great place to live. So a lot of folks don't know this. So we're very experienced in this room. Our challenge is to share what we know with our neighbors and remind them when they say, oh, it's just going to be 1, don't worry about it. You say, you know, we had this one back in 2018 that gave us 20 to 30 inches. We get 20 to 30 inches of rain. It's a big deal, regardless of what that number is. So you can be an educator in the community. So right where we stand, just down the street, Florence in 2018, 85% of people that died because of water. Again, 85% of people that die is because of water. Could a tree fall on your house? Yes. Will you probably lose power? Yes. But it's water that's most likely to kill you. And specifically here in Pollocksville, it would be flash flooding, river flooding. And then closer to the coast, or if you visit the beach and the storm was like a distant storm, it would be rip currents as well. In Florence, we lost 15 people in North Carolina. 11 were flooding, so this is not like a statistic from the 60s. All 11 were in cars. So if you just don't cross a flooded road, we're going to talk about this for after the storm. Don't cross flooded roads, don't go around barricades, you'll be perfectly fine when we're talking about water. Past experience can be a good thing, but it really depends on your perspective. No 2 storms are alike. So on the left, I mentioned Ione. The history books really say that that's very similar to what happened with Florence. So don't think that, and I know the highest watermark here in Pollocksville was Florence, but just because a storm was really bad doesn't mean we haven't had a bad one in the past or it won't happen again. They're all different personalities. Like we all have different personalities in this room. And this picture, the old town hall, we installed high watermark signs after Floyd to create awareness so people would know, hey, this is how high the water can get and things like this. So this is a watermark from Floyd in 1999, this black line. And if you look very carefully, that's the mud line from Florence. So a couple feet above Floyd. So it was the storm of record where we stand today. So it's hard to perceive that it could be that bad, especially if we were here that long ago. But use your imagination because unfortunately it can sometimes when it's really, really bad. This is Floyd, the storm of record before Florence. There's the eye. These are higher cloud tops. We colored them in on an infrared satellite. They indicate showers and storms. I'm gonna let this loop through again, but the reason why I'm showing you this is there's so much focus on where's it gonna hit? Where's it gonna hit? What time is it gonna hit? It's important, but here we are in Eastern North Carolina. The eye is down here. Hours and days before that, the dot gets here, the eye, we're getting rain. So when the county tells you to evacuate, or the state, or your local town, whoever tells you what's best for your life, it's because of things like this, hours and days before the center actually gets here. So impacts can occur well away from the center. They can slow down. They can cause a lot of issues before they even get up into our area. And that loop just kind of really shows it. And Floyd, a lot of rain, but we had it from Dennis as well. It was already kind of a saturated area. So we've done a pretty good job with prep. You probably already knew to have your kit. Have you done it yet? Maybe, maybe not. The one thing I really want you to listen to is after the storm, be careful. Don't be in a rush to get back. Don't be in a rush to be out in the community. Cleaning up in the yard, obviously we want to help people. I'm not talking about that aspect. I mean, putting yourself at risk. Driving at night, you can't see the flooded roads. You don't know if the road's washed out. That generator you got, make sure you know how to use it. Just saw a story from the storm that hit down in the Gulf. The family was okay, but they got very sick from carbon monoxide poisoning. I get the look from people a lot of times when I say, if you have a generator, know not to put it in a garage. People look at me like, Eric, I didn't waste a beautiful evening to come and hear you say not to put it in my garage. You may not know how to use something like that if you've never had it before. So don't use it inside, use it in a well-ventilated area outside. If you're not usually on ladders, get your neighbor to do it. If you're not usually doing yard work, get your neighbor to do it, or wait. The water is nasty. We have septic systems. There's a lot of bacteria in the water. We have lost lives in Eastern North Carolina. People that have had like open wounds or just a simple cut on the leg, they get an infection. And again, I don't make any money off of scaring you. This has happened. This is not, some outlandish story. So the reason why I'm harping on this is nearly half of our deaths now occurred after the storm. So you got the kit, you know what to do, you leave the area, you stay, whatever your personal decision is. Be smart afterwards, especially driving at night, especially when it's not in a rush to get back or out into the community. So we're going to end with what you should focus on, and then we're going to turn it over to some community members, including Jones County Emergency Services, to talk about some resources that our county specifically has. If you should pay attention only to category, what should you do? You don't need to get a degree. You just need to look at these 5 things. How much rain? What's the surge? And I'll talk about how that impacts here. If you're going to the beach, what's the rip current threat? What's the wind speed? It's important. And are we going to have any tornadoes? So flash flooding, where we stand, is probably our biggest risk in the county for sure. Heavy rainfall is common. Category is not an indication of rainfall. Again, Florence, 1, we got a ton of rain. So please keep that in mind. Cars can float in less than 2 feet of water. This is to the west of where we stand today near Trenton. We got almost 3 feet of rain. That's like almost a half year worth of rainfall in just 4 days. It's a tremendous amount of rain. How many have seen some of the pictures out of Southport, down in Brunswick County, south of Wilmington? So they got 12 to 20 inches in a day and a half. Tremendous amount of rain. We average about 3 inches a month. So to put that in perspective, I mean, that's an incredible amount of rain in a short period of time. This is an older picture. I know Sissy has seen this, but a lot in the room have not seen this. This is a point of emphasis with us. I love Jones County because when I come from Cape Carteret, where I live, it's completely flat. I actually hit a few hills. So you've got a little bit of topography. So we're not talking Boone or Asheville or Blowing Rock, but we've got a couple hills when I go up 58. So those hills, the water can flow off them very, very quickly. So water is strong. Never cross a flooded road. You probably would know not to cross that. But what you may not realize is the road underneath it is washed out. And again, we didn't go searching for the craziest image I could find. We have images like this out of Southport from a day and a half ago. So when the water exceeds the culvert under the road, it scours out the earth around it. It happens all the time. They're designed for a certain amount of water. When we get more than that, it gets scoured out. The other thing, one of the emergency managers pointed out, or I think Public Works in Onslow County, the water line. So when you decide to stay, I don't tell you what to do. You do what's best for your family. But you're up a hill, you got a generator, you're good. All right, you're good. But the road getting to you is not good. So emergency services can't get to you at a snap of fingers like they usually can. The water doesn't get to you. Electricity. So when I go back to you, you're on your own for a while. That's why. It's not all about you, where you live. You may be an island. So just kind of keep that in mind when you're kind of like, I don't know if I should go or not. If it's a real bad one, you're going to be more comfortable not here if it's bad. And I know we have businesses and homes in the community that we want to fix right away. I get all that. Getting the mold out, getting things dried out, fixing stuff. Totally get it. Been there, done that. Lived through it. We can fix it. We can't replace you. Just please remember that. I know insurance and getting things back to normal is a pain, but your life is worth more than what you're trying to replace, either your home or your business. So specifically with flooding, turn around, don't drown, never cross a flooded road. You don't know the depth, you don't know if the road exists, and the water is extremely powerful to move through. Probably a 1B to your 1A in terms of risk is river flooding. This is during Matthew. I left it off the list before because it's the Trent River across our county. So you certainly get rainfall flooding, and you see once the water comes up, it can stay up for quite some time. We're on our way to the ocean, so we're at a lower elevation than the mountains, so it stays elevated for quite some time. That last bullet point, a lot of our deaths occur in vehicles, especially at night. When I drive home at night, if it's dark, I just can't see as well. None of us can see as well. So keep that in mind. And for like Matthew, a lot of our river levels didn't peak for a week. So it takes a while to not only have the peak water level, but also for them to go below flood stage. So I put storm surge here for number 3. I'm going to show you a graphic. You do get storm surge up the Trent River, not in the sense like a New Bern where it comes up like drastically really high, but the water can go backwards, or at the very least, it doesn't drain like it should. And because of that, that adds to your flooding. So if you have your normal river and it's low, the water flows into it, goes down the Trent into the Neuse, everything's good to go. But if it's elevated, then it can't drain and it backs up. So that's why I put storm surge on here. It's not like the big wave that you would get down like at the beach. You certainly can get it. And again, it doesn't have to make landfall. Florence did not make landfall in our community, and we still were devastated. So I want to show you some of these maps. This is a Category 3 simulation for the county. That's the reasonable worst case. Fran in the 90s was a 3. We're going to have a 3, hopefully not when I'm still with the weather service, but it's going to happen again. So this estimates what the water would be above low-lying areas by the river that are usually dry. The blues is more than 3. Yellow, orange, and red, you're talking 3, 6, or 9 feet. And I know it's hard to see. This is kind of wide perspective. Storm surge doesn't really have an influence up the White Oak toward Maysville. And even Trenton, a lot of this, what you see in Trenton is the river or the swamp next to it. It's not houses and stuff like that. But here in Pollocksville, that's a different story because down toward Riverbend, this whole area gets backed up or it flows the other way, and that doesn't allow it to drain. So I just want to explain that to you. It's not like a big tidal wave coming. It's just things can't drain the way they normally do. So you get hit with what's called the double whammy. You get all that rain flowing into the river, and then it can't go anywhere, or it actually backs up. And that's why you get pretty bad. And I zoomed in to Pollocksville specifically because that's where we are. So here we're kind of on the edge of this, by the filling station's on the edge, but down toward the river itself. So this is, houses and stuff. This is not swampland and stuff like you have up toward Trenton by the river. And then of course down toward Riverbend and the communities toward New Bern, they can certainly get it. And that's, you've lived here, you have some experience in the room, but imagine if you're a new person and you're in Riverbend or Pottsville or Trenton, and it would be, I would think it even as a meteorologist that you could have storm surge or flooding this far inland. But again, keep in mind when that water comes back because of the surge off of the Pamlico Sound, eventually up the Neuse River, that could really add to the flooding we get. So water, water, water. I hit it hard because that's what's most important for this county. You can get tornadoes. It's already spinning, so it's not hard to imagine. Even if it's just a tropical storm, we saw with Debbie, we put out a lot of tornado warnings. Knock on wood. Luckily, we were okay, except that in Greene County, they had EF2, 130, 35 mile per hour tornado. That's worse than any hurricane wind we've had. And it did kill something up in Wilson County. This is Bogue Inlet Pier down in Emerald Isle. This is Dorian. Well, that's not Dorian. That's a tornado because of Dorian. Those were the first bands of rain that came on shore. So if you decide to stay put. As soon as those first bands are coming in, even though you're not at the center and it's a whole day away, those are the ones that usually produce the tornadoes. And all you need to do with that is make sure your phone is charged, you have a weather radio, you have a way to get the warning that's going to wake you up. So like I said, I live down the road in Cape Carteret. We had a water spout that came on shore very weak, luckily, half mile from my house. Don't do what I do. My family was in the pantry, and then my daughter, who likes weather, we're kind of looking out the window. But I treated it as for work because I said if I see something, I'm going to call work so that they will put that in the morning that it's confirmed. But don't do what I do. Lowest level, away from windows, away from the storm itself. We're rounding toward the end. Wind is certainly an aspect of the storm. This is Arthur in 2014. Not really a big deal here in Jones County. The center was toward Cape Lookout. It was a Category 2 storm. A lot of the wind was toward the Outer Banks. Fast-moving storm, compact, really not a big deal. Do you remember Irene? It was just a 1 though. But it was slower moving, a much, much larger storm. So the wind field can really depend on speed of movement, how large it is, a lot of different factors. Wind can certainly cause damage, but usually is toward the lower end in terms of statistically hurting you or killing you. Last but not least is rip currents. If you go to the beach and there's a distant storm and the red flags are flying, you should not get in the water. The reason why I mentioned this, we did not lose any lives in Oregon. Oak Grove got devastated, no loss of life. The same year, we lost 4 people at the beach because of rip currents. Lorenzo was 2,000 miles away, produced a really bad swell at our beach. A couple of weeks ago, or I think it's a month ago now, Ernesto was never going to hit us directly. We lost somebody down in Surf City. So statistically, we lose more people at our beaches and rip currents than we do anywhere because of any other weather disaster. So keep that in mind. Swim at a lifeguarded beach. If it's a red flag, you shouldn't be in the water. There's nothing to be afraid of. You just swim left or right or parallel if it pulls you out. It does not pull you under, it pulls you out, and your natural reaction is to fight it. You do not want to fight it. If your friend or kid is in the water and they're being pulled out, do not go in after them. Instead, direct them where to go. I know it's a natural reaction to, you want to help, if your son's in the water, you're going to be out there helping them. But a lot of times the second person that goes in is who drowned. So instead of helping them that way, help them the way of telling them where to go, swimming left or right. They're not to be afraid of, but there's certainly something that does occur at the beach. So a lot of information, share this. We have a beautiful evening outside. We have a lot of stuff going on. Obviously, not everybody can be here tonight. We're recording this, putting this on YouTube tomorrow. Share this with your church, whoever couldn't be here that wanted to be here. Start working on your hurricane kit. Try to focus on all the impacts, not just the category, and don't forget about after the storm. One thing I challenged the community to do that Jones County Emergency Services has already done, I'd love the filling station to sign up. I think Catholic Charities has already signed up. We have a program called Weather Radiation Ambassadors. Doesn't cost anything. It's for any organization that wants to work in weather preparedness to share our information. So we use that list to promote stuff like this. Or say, hey, you need 100 of these for your event? No problem. Want us to come give a talk? No problem. So we have schools, hospitals, that's the Aurora Library. We did a book club up there. Greene County Middle School. I'm pretty sure Maceville Elementary is on the list. I have paper copies. You can scan the QR code or just see me. Again, it's not an individual that can sign up for it. And all you are asked to do is 4 to 8 times a year, you're going to get information on weather preparedness, winter, flood, summer heat. Just share it with whoever's in your organization. That's all you have to do. And then work with us. If you want us to come to the filling station again, want us to do a weather spotter class, just let us know. Easiest way to do that is email. It's on the screen. I also have business cards. We love being in the community. All we need is a facility like this and a blank wall, right? Or we have a screen. As long as we have power, we can pretty much make it happen. So are there any questions before I turn it over to Sissy from the county? So we're going to transition now to there's other groups here, including Sissy, County Emergency Management. There's resources in this county that are available. Hear them. And then also before you leave, make sure you see some of the booths that have been set up. I mentioned the hurricane guide is over there. I know Catholic Charities brought some stuff as well. Grab this. This is information for you. And don't be shy. Take extra copies for your neighbors, your family that couldn't be here. It's not doing any good in a warehouse. It's doing much better in the community. So Sissy, why don't you come on up and tell us what we've got going on in Jones County?
Guys, turn on the lights now. We finished with the screen.
Yes. Yep. I'm going to turn it up.
Well, good evening. So if you do not know me, I am a Jones County native, but born in New Bern in 1992, and I've been here ever since. From Pollocksville originally. I moved to the western part after I met my husband, but I am a homegrown Jones County girl. That being said, I am the Emergency Services Director for Jones County. In my wheelhouse, I have EMS, and hopefully none of you have had to use their services. Look, we have Jones County EMS, we have Jones County Emergency Management, our Fire Marshal's office, as well as our safety for the county itself is in my wheelhouse in my office. There's a lot of moving parts in my department. One of those being, and is very dear to me, is emergency management. So Eric gave you a lot of information, a whole lot of information. Some of you may have known, some of the graphics you may have seen, on the news, on the internet, but didn't exactly know what they mean. Everything you've seen, just like you said, he gives us the briefing right before it goes out to the local news. As an emergency manager, we sit in the Emergency Operations Center, which is in Trenton, and we look at all of these to make decisions for all the citizens of Jones County. Now, I can tell you personally, I'm looking at it as, we're going to hope for the best, but I am preparing for the worst. So I'm going to prepare way past what Eric's telling me most of the time. If he says it's category 1, in my mind, it's a category 2. If he's saying we're getting 10 inches of rain, hope we're getting 15. That's what I'm going on. History has proven to us that, yes, they do the best they can, but Mother Nature is Mother Nature, and we don't know what's going to happen. So that being said, I want all of you to be prepared, and this was one step towards that. Thank you to the filling station for hosting it tonight. We do have weather alerts that the county itself pays for. It is free for you to get access to. If you're interested in that, please see me before you leave tonight. I apologize. I completely forgot brochures on my desk before I left, but I have all the information on my phone. You can get it via text or a phone call. You can get it on a landline. It's all up to you how you want to sign up for those. They come directly from the Weather Service as well. They're in partnership with the Weather Service radios, essentially. Anything that would get pushed out on that radio, you would get in a text message in real time. It also notifies me of how many alerts were sent out. During the storm on Monday, I had over 500 alerts that were sent out for the storm coming in with the flash flooding and everything that you may have seen, the little weather apps on your phones that you get. You get a little more detail with these. Jones County does have a lot going on. Our Emergency Operations Center is actually being renovated soon. Currently, I'm in a room, I don't know, Mary Ann, what would you say, a quarter of what size of this little area is? Yeah, it's small. We try to fit it with about 15 people in there. We have partners from everywhere. Nonprofits, private corporations, state officials, county officials, different departments all sit in this room and make those decisions to go, okay, do we evacuate? What does that look like? What does reentry look like? We have other points. How are we getting people back to their homes? Which routes we're going to have to take? So all these things are happening in that room. Well, fortunately, the state as well as our county leaders gave us money to renovate that. So we'll now be in a room a little bit bigger than this one. Spread out. I love people, but 7 days together, you can imagine. It can get a little tight. We also have 2 EMS stations going up in the county to help reduce response times, which in turn helps with disasters and other events like this as well. So there's a lot of good things happening in Jones County. You may not see them directly, you may not know they're directly affecting you, but by all means, they are. I'm going to leave some of my cards in the back, as well as if you want to get in touch and get this alert system, please see me. I will help you get it set up on your cell phone or give you the information. I will write it down for you. At that, I'm going to open up for any questions. You pick my brain. I don't know how much is in there. It's getting a little late today, but you can pick my brain. Nothing? All right, perfect. Who want to turn it over to next?
Ham radio?
What Kitty got, but.
Oh, Kitty. You want me to go?
Oh, it's Kitty.
I am also from Jones County, but in Clayton County, Trent Woods, along with John. And I grew up pretty much with Mary Ann, hanging out in Jones County a lot growing up. So it's kind of like home to me too. I am the program director for the Catholic Charities New Bern Regional Office. What we do in disaster is primarily disaster case management after the storm. So we will help folks find the resources and get their house rebuilt if that's what they need, or if it's furniture or food or rent or utilities, clothing, that kind of thing. We'll set you up with that. Another thing that we do is case worker training. So we will look for community volunteers to come in and we'll train them. And they're going to be our door knockers. They're going to be going door to door to knock on folks' home to let them know of resources and to see what we can help them with. So thank you, Mary Ann, for inviting us here tonight. We are a partner before, during, and after a storm.
Yeah, Catholic Charities had an office here during all the recovery. And of course, we're United Way, partner agency, thanks to you.
That's
Because you trained, yeah.
Yeah, so we'll be here in Jones County, Brayton County, Carteret County, Valentine County, Onslow and Beaufort County to support any way we can after. And I do have some resources back.
All right. Brandon is our highest ranking official in the room for the New Bern Amateur Radio Club. He's our vice president. I'll do one spot. So Ed Valentine is a club member as well. So for New Bern Amateur Radio Club, we actually have the tower you see here is a repeater. And we have about a 25 or 30 radius. So we can, basically, it's a high point for folks to connect to with their radio. So if I have a radio, I might not be able to connect directly to John where he is in Newbern, but we can both connect to this tall tower and speak to each other. So that's how that works. And there's another one in Newbern, there's one in Jacksonville, one in Kinston. So it kind of helps us all kind of stay together. And people like to say, when everything else fails, you've got ham radio that'll work. So we can run things on batteries. If the internet's down, power's down, your phone doesn't work, we have a way to kind of stay connected. So we actually also host 2 classes a year, or at least that's how it's been going. If you want your ham radio amateur license, you can do that here with training and take the test here. We actually have the second part that's coming up in October. And I got information on the table back there if that's something that anybody would be interested in. But we work with the filling station and emergency management folks in Jones County that it's like Susan says, the thing you don't want to have to use, but you're ready if you need to. So we're just trying to stay in communication because during Florence, you all lost connection with.
So during Florence, we literally lost everything. I could use my cell phone on the second block of our sign. And I had to turn it upside down for it to even connect. That's all I had. We ended up losing our main radio system. Unfortunately for our late director, before he passed, he got our generator back up and running for our tower site for our emergency communications. We went down to walkie-talkies. Like this $4,000 800 megahertz radio that we use was a walkie-talkie. I could talk to somebody in Trenton or somebody in Pollocksville as far as an emergency responder. We weren't getting out to our communications. So 911, non-existent.